Okay, so Glenn Funk's prosecutorial posse, consisting of Chad Jackson, Brittany Flatt, and others, consciously, recklessly, negligently disregarded key evidence in the Redonda Vaught trial. They did so, quote, other than by accidental means, end quote. They have the training to assess evidence, and they did not, resulting in the conviction of Redonda Vaught for criminally negligent homicide and abuse of an impaired elder. As a nurse with 35 years experience in the medical field, from being a volunteer EMT when I was 16 to 10 years of active and reserve military service as an infantryman, Army medic, and Navy corpsman, as well as nearly 20 years as an LVN, LPN, and registered nurse, mostly in the ICU setting, I watched as much of the trial as I could and reviewed related documents. It is deeply concerning to me that either conviction was voted on by the jury. Nothing the prosecution presented is inconsistent with Redonda's testimony that she only gave 1 milligram or 1 ml of what she thought was Versed. The defense made it very clear that the medical examiner, Dr. Feng Li, is on record as saying 1 milligram of vecuronium, or 1/7 of the paralyzing dose, would not be lethal. Sentencing is this Friday, May 13th, and I asked Judge Smith to give the least possible sentence and or fine, and that Governor Lee completely exonerates Redonda. This is not just a grievance of prosecutorial incompetence that affects Nashville, Davidson County, but Tennessee as a whole. As the first criminal conviction of a medication error, this case, unless reversed, will echo throughout the medical community for years to come. It is highly unlikely that echo will make healthcare safer. And yeah, you can criticize me for having a run-on sentence here, but all right. So, people are not going to be as willing to share, if they have a near miss or they make a mistake. And I'll go through some of that more. I don't want to focus on the details of the case. It was just painful listening to a lot of the testimony. Some of the testimony was very, very impressive. Very impressed with some of the experts that were brought in. Eye-opening how trials actually occur. I don't know that I've ever really watched as much as I could of a trial from start to finish. I mean, usually you just hear tidbits here and there, but I mean, it's performance. I mean, it's theater. It's not, frustratingly, it's not about pursuing the truth. It's about, who can tell the better story, and what actually happened is just of note. It just doesn't matter at all, and that's very disturbing, because something did actually happen, and the goal of the justice system should try to be to figure out, let's get as close as possible to what happened, and then let's talk about that. That wasn't done by the prosecution at all. So this is Brittany Flatt. I can't remember her name. We'll come across it later. So I really just, listening to her closing arguments, it was just painful. I don't think she's ever been anything close to, having to be a nurse or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe she was a nurse or in the military. I don't know. You never can tell. But based on this little, 41-minute presentation she gave, just not at all impressed with her ability to understand what it's like to work in an ICU. And one thing that struck me, other people talked about different aspects, or in the comments you can read, but no one pointed out, she kept saying consciously disregarded. So she'll say consciously disregard. I don't know how many times. I mean, it's hard to get a transcript that you can rely on, but 10 times, 15 times. So, okay, if Redonda did indeed consciously disregard whatever, safety, whatever. If she consciously disregarded over and over, then, and that's what led to this potential. I mean, we don't even know if the patient got enough of the medication to kill her. So that's even begs that question, causation. But if it's so obvious, then you don't have to tell people that. So in a sense, this is like brainwashing. This is playing, psychological manipulation, consciously disregarded. But then she also says at some point, like, she doesn't think Redonda intended to do harm or intended to kill the patient. So she didn't intentionally do something, but she consciously disregarded. So, yes, she pressed override and she did this and she did that. I mean, it's all, I mean, we'll get to some of it in one of the articles we look at, the 17 thing, whatever. I'm not impressed by all of that. So if we look up consciously, synonyms for consciously are advisedly, deliberately, designedly, intentionally is what comes to mind for me. Knowingly, purposefully, purposively, willfully, wittingly. I would say more, no, Redonda unwittingly got caught up into a channel of events that led somehow to the patient dying. I don't know that, we don't really know. No autopsy was done. We don't really know. So I don't even know why charges were brought. But anyway, they got their conviction, so, yay, good for them. I'm being sarcastic. I don't really think that. Okay, so consciously means intentionally. So she had to have intentionally done all of these things, knowing the consequences, right? Intentionally do it. Well, I don't think that's true.